The plate, the plea, and the look that froze time. The fork clattered to the floor with a sharp clang. Heads turned, laughter dimmed. A violinist hesitated mid-note. And there she stood, barely 19, skin wind-burned, hair tangled and flat. And from the cold, jeans soaked from the rain, and a hoodie 2 sizes too big for her shivering frame. Her voice had been no louder than a breath. "Can I have your leftovers, sir?" No one at table 9 moved. They just stared, open mouths, blinking, eyes expensive suits. Dripping judgment, Miles Carrow, the man she'd addressed, turned his head slowly, as if someone had just hit pause on the entire restaurant, and only he was still aware of the silence. The woman beside him let out a small, confused laugh. Unsure if she was the target of a joke, he didn't laugh, he just looked at her. Not the way rich people usually looked at those who didn't belong, not with pity, not with superiority, but with something else, recognition. The girl stepped back, her hands up slightly defensive. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have—" she began. "No," he said, standing abruptly. His voice was soft but firm. "Wait." Her feet stilled, though. Her body leaned back like she wanted to run. The manager was already striding toward them, flanked by 2 suited security men. The tension in the room thickened like steam. A young man at a nearby table began filming with his phone. "Sir, I apologize," the manager said quickly. She's been around the street outside for days. We've asked her not to—" "She asked me," Carrow said, his voice calm. "Not you." The girl swallowed hard. She was barely breathing. Her stomach had been in knots for hours. She hadn't eaten in nearly 3 days, nothing but a half packet of crackers she'd found near a bus stop bench. "I'm not a beggar," she said, her voice hoarse. "You're hungry," Carrow interrupted. "And brave." She blinked. "Take my plate," he said. He picked it up, steak only half eaten, sides untouched, and extended it toward her. Every table was watching now. Phones were out. Murmurs swirled like whispers in a church. She hesitated. It wasn't the food that made her pause. It was the way he was looking at her, like she mattered, like she wasn't invisible. "No tricks," she whispered. "You're not gonna humiliate me." He tilted his head slightly. "What kind of life have you lived that makes you ask that?" She didn't answer, just reached out, carefully, and took the plate from his hands with trembling fingers. Before she could leave, he added, "Sit." "What?" "Sit. Eat properly. This table—" "It's yours now!" Someone gasped. Another laughed uncomfortably. A man near the bar muttered, "This is some kind of PR stunt." But it wasn't. Miles Carrow, the elusive millionaire, hadn't appeared in public for nearly 4 years. There were rumors, mental breakdown, betrayal, business collapse, even a secret child. None were confirmed. He was a mystery, the kind that made tabloids desperate, and now he was offering his seat to a homeless girl like she was royalty. The manager stepped closer. "Mr. Carrow, perhaps a private room." "Do I look like I'm asking for suggestions?" The manager froze. Carrow pulled out the chair for her. She sat, slowly, cautiously. Her fingers gripped the edges of the seat like it might vanish. Her eyes darted around the room, every stare a needle. "I didn't mean to cause a scene," she murmured. "You didn't," he said. "They did." She looked down at the plate, then back at him. "Why are you being nice to me?" He didn't answer at first, then softly, "Because you remind me of someone." "Who?" He didn't answer. Instead, he signaled to the nearest server. "Bring her a full meal, steak, potatoes, salad, dessert, a warm drink." She shook her head. "That's too much." "It's just food," he said. "You deserve to eat." The server nodded and left. She stared at him. He studied her face, noticed the bruise near her jawline, barely faded, the dry lips, the dark circles under her eyes, and something deeper. The way she flinched whenever someone raised their voice near her, like she'd been hurt by more than hunger. "What's your name?" he asked. Layla, she said after a moment. Last name. Does it matter? No, he said and leaned back. It doesn't. She clutched the plate and began eating, carefully, as if afraid someone might snatch it away mid-bite. After a few minutes, her voice returned, quiet but clearer. Why are you really doing this? Caro didn't blink. Because I've been where you are, not outside a restaurant, but close enough. She gave him a skeptical look. He smiled, barely. Rich people fall hard, too. We just do it in silence. Layla stopped chewing. What happened to you? He paused, then said, Eat first. 10 minutes passed. A new plate arrived. Hot food. Real food. She inhaled it slowly, savoring every bite. Her hands shook. Tears filled her eyes but didn't fall. You okay? He asked. No, she said honestly. But this helps. He nodded. She looked up at him. You said I reminded you of someone. My sister. Is she gone? She's missing, he said quietly. Disappeared 5 years ago, after getting involved with someone she shouldn't have. Layla stared. Her breath caught. What's his name? She asked. Caro hesitated. Damien. Red, he said. Real estate scammer, charmer, vanished with millions, and with her, Layla's fork dropped. Caro's eyes narrowed instantly. You know that name. She leaned back, her face pale. He was my fiancé. Silence exploded between them. I married him 6 months ago, she whispered. 3 days later, he was gone. So was my sister, and every cent in my account. She pulled a crumpled envelope from her hoodie pocket and placed it on the table. This was the last thing he left. Caro opened it. Inside, a faded photo of Layla with Damien. A note. She was prettier than you. You should have seen this coming. His jaw clenched. Rage flickered behind his eyes. Not for her, but for him. That bastard used the same playbook, he said. Layla wiped her cheek. I didn't even care about the money. But my sister, she knew, and she still helped him. Caro sat forward. What's your sister's name? She hesitated. Jessa. Jessa Red now, I guess. Caro froze. Jessa was his sister's name too, but his sister had never used the name Red before. He pulled out his phone, typed something rapidly, then turned it to show her. A missing person photo. 5 years old, shoulder-length brown hair, green eyes. Layla gasped. That's her, she whispered. That's Jessa. But she said she didn't have any family. Caro's voice was low, controlled. She told me she had cancer, that she didn't want treatment, that she wanted to go on her own terms. Then she disappeared with Damien. I hired people to find them. Nothing, not a trace. She told me she lost her brother in a car accident. They both sat in silence, too. Victims, one betrayal. Why now, he asked. Why ask me for food? Layla shrugged helplessly. I didn't know who you were. You just looked kind. I was desperate. I swear, if I knew... You did the right thing, he said. You trusted your gut. Layla's eyes softened. And then Caro leaned closer. What if I told you we could find them? Together, she froze. Why would you help me, she asked. I'm a stranger. You were, he said. But now we share a common enemy. Layla's lip trembled. He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a card, and slid it across the table. Come to this address tomorrow, 9 a.m. There'll be breakfast, a shower, clean clothes, and a plan. She stared at it. What if I say no? He shrugged. Then at least you got a warm meal, no strings. She picked up the card, her hands still unsteady. For the first time in months, a tiny piece of hope slipped into her chest, and she didn't know whether to welcome it or fear it. As she left the restaurant under Caro's quiet protection, no one followed. No one dared stop her now, but from across the street a figure stood watching from the shadows, phone in hand, lips tight. The figure raised the phone and made a call. They've found each other, she said. We need to move. The voice on the other end growled, "Then it's time we vanish, for good." The woman looked back one last time at Layla and whispered, "I never meant to hurt you." Shadows from the past and the secrets. They hide. The morning air was cold, crisp and unforgiving as Layla stood outside the modest building whose address Miles Caro had handed her the night before. She held the card tightly in her hand, fingers trembling, not from the cold, but from the knot of hope and fear twisting inside her chest. The city around her hummed with life. Cars rushing by, street vendors calling out, people walking to their jobs. But none of that mattered. All she could hear was the thumping in her chest, reminding her that this day could change everything, or nothing at all. A door opened before she could knock, and Miles Caro appeared, looking less like the elusive millionaire the tabloids portrayed, and more like a man who carried his own scars beneath the tailored suit. "Morning," he said softly, holding the door for her. His eyes searched hers, steady, inviting, cautious. Layla hesitated, then stepped inside. Inside, the room was warm and smelled faintly of fresh coffee and toast. A small group sat at the table, 2 men and a woman, each with faces that told stories of their own battles and resilience. "Layla," Caro introduced. "This is Jonah, my private investigator, and Mara, my assistant." Jonah nodded, his eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. Mara smiled warmly, her face soft but determined. "We've been waiting for you." Layla felt the weight of their gaze but nodded, sinking into the chair across from Caro. Caro took a deep breath, folding his hands on the table. "I know you have a lot of questions. I want to answer as many as I can. Starting with your sister, Jessa." Layla's eyes flicked toward Mara. "She's been missing for 5 years, Mara said carefully. "Our last lead was a few months ago, a shaky sighting in a town near the border. Nothing confirmed." Jonah pulled out a folder filled with photos, documents, and scribbled notes. He slid it toward Layla. "Look at this." Layla flipped through the photos. One showed Jessa smiling at a market stall. Another was a blurry image of a woman running down a dim alley. "How did you find these?" she whispered. "We have sources everywhere," Jonah said. "Private eyes, informants even. Some people connected to Damien Red's old network." Layla swallowed hard. "You think Jessa and Damien are together?" Caro leaned forward. "I don't just think it. I know it." A sudden silence fell over the room. "Why?" Layla finally asked. "Why would my sister help him?" "She knew everything," Mara sighed. "Sometimes betrayal comes from the deepest pain. We don't know what broke her, but we intend to find out." For the next 2 hours the team laid out what they knew and didn't know. Jessa had vanished. Shortly after Layla's wedding, just like Damien Red's scams had collapsed overnight, leaving thousands of victims, and Jessa had somehow disappeared from every official record. "There's more," Jonah said, handing Layla a USB stick. "We found something in Damien's old office before it was cleaned out." Layla plugged it into the laptop Caro provided. A video played. The screen showed Damien's smirking face leaning against a desk. He held up a flash drive. "If you're watching this," he said, "you know the truth is coming out. Jessa's not who you think she is, and neither am I." The video cut abruptly. Layla's breath caught. Caro's eyes darkened. "He always knew we were close." Suddenly, Mara's phone buzzed. She glanced down and frowned. "Security alert," she said. "Someone tried to access our system last night." "Who?" Caro asked. "Unknown, but they're good. Professional." Layla felt a chill. "Someone doesn't want us digging." Jonah nodded grimly. "This is bigger than a missing persons case." Caro stood abruptly. "We need to move fast." As Layla left the building later that afternoon, she felt like she was walking a tightrope, stretched over an abyss. Someone was watching her. She knew it. The shadows seemed thicker now. That evening, in a dimly lit room far from the city's glittering lights, a woman sat behind a desk cluttered with papers. Her name was Victoria. She scrolled through images on her phone. "Layla and Caro are digging too deep," she muttered. "We can't let the past come back to haunt us," a voice said. Behind her, Victoria smiled coldly. "They won't know what hit them." Back in her small apartment, Layla stared at the photograph from the envelope again. Her fingers traced the face of her fiancé, smiling, charming, but with a hint of something dark behind his eyes. Her phone buzzed. A text message appeared. "Stop looking. Some truths are better left buried." She looked around the room, heart pounding. Who was watching her, and why did the warning feel like both a threat and a plea? The next morning, Caro arrived with a plan. "We're going to start with Damien's. Last known location," he said. "It's a small town called Greyfield near the coast. Quiet, out of the way." Layla felt a flicker of hope. "Then let's go." In the car, Caro and Layla drove through winding roads, flanked by dense trees. "Tell me about Jessa," Caro asked gently. Layla took a deep breath. "She was my sister, but also my best friend. She always looked out for me, even when things got hard. When Damien came into our lives, she tried to warn me, but I didn't listen." Her voice cracked. "I thought she betrayed me, but maybe she was protecting me." Caro glanced over, nodding slowly. "People do terrible things for the ones they love." They arrived in Greyfield as the sun began to set, painting the sky with oranges and purples. The town was sleepy. Small shops shuttered. A salty breeze carried the smell of the sea. Caro pulled over near a rundown cafe. "We start here," he said. Inside, the smell of strong coffee and fried food filled the air. They asked around, quiet questions about Damien and Jessa. Most knew nothing, but one old man wiping his hands on a rag leaned in. "Yeah, I saw them. Couple of years back. Looked like they were running from something." Layla's heart hammered. "Where?" "Down by the docks, late at night." That night Layla couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the warning text. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a video. A shadowed figure stood near a dock, whispering, "They're closer than you think." The screen went black. The next morning, as they prepared to investigate the docks, Caro's phone rang. "It's Mara," he said, answering. Her voice was urgent. "We found something." Caro motioned to Layla. "What is it?" "A safe deposit. Box in Damien's name," Mara said. "It contains documents that might explain everything." Layla's hands trembled as they drove to the bank. The box was old and heavy. Inside, they found letters, contracts, and a diary. Layla opened the diary. Damien's handwriting was messy, but the words were clear. He had been trapped in a dangerous game, blackmail, fraud, and threats that involved more than just money. And Jessa had been his unwilling partner, forced to disappear to protect Layla. As the pieces fell into place, a new question arose. Who was behind it all? That evening, Layla received another call. This time the voice was cold and familiar. "Stop digging, Layla, or you'll lose more than just your sister." She dropped the phone, heart racing. Caro placed a hand on her shoulder. "We're in this together," he said. "The web tightens and the masks begin to fall." The night air pressed heavily against Layla as she sat in her dimly lit apartment, the diary open on the table before her. Each page was like a window into a nightmare she never knew her sister and fiancé had lived through. Blackmail, dangerous alliances, forced disappearances, all tangled in a web, thicker and darker than she had imagined. Caro's voice on the phone earlier echoed in her mind. "We're in this together." But even with him by her side, Layla felt the walls closing in faster than she could run. The morning after at dawn, the phone buzzed again, jolting Layla awake. It was a message from Mara. New lead. "Meet at 10 a.m. coffee shop, Main Street." Layla knew better than to ask questions over text. Mara had become their anchor, always 2 steps ahead. Meeting Mara, the cafe was bustling with early risers, but Mara sat in a corner booth, her face grim. "I managed to get into the safe deposit box's digital records," she said quietly, sliding a folder across the table. Inside were names, hundreds of people linked to Damien's accounts and schemes. But one name stood out. "Victoria," Layla whispered. Mara nodded. "Victoria Kane. She's the one who ordered the threats, the one who controlled the blackmail." Layla's stomach dropped. That was the same name she had heard in the shadows the other night. "How is she connected to Damien?" Layla asked. "That's what we're trying to figure out, but she's powerful, more than just some criminal. She's tied to influential people in this city." Caro's call interrupted them. "We need to be careful," he warned. "Victoria Kane has eyes everywhere. If she suspects we're onto her, things will get dangerous." Layla swallowed hard. "Then what do we do?" "We follow the trail," he said, voice steady, "and we protect each other." The hunt begins. They divided their tasks. Layla would dig through Victoria Kane's public life, social events, and business dealings. Jonah and Mara would use their contacts to find hidden connections, bank accounts, shell companies, secret properties. Caro planned to trace Damien's last movements, hoping to find a pattern or clue. The first break 2 days later, Mara called excitedly. "We found an address linked to Victoria's offshore accounts." Layla and Caro drove out of the city to a secluded estate nestled in a wooded area. The gates were imposing, the kind of place built to keep secrets and people locked away. Inside the estate, using contacts, they managed to get inside during a party hosted by Victoria herself. The atmosphere was electric, full of glittering guests and whispered deals. Layla felt out of place, but determined. They split up to observe and gather information. The unexpected encounter. As Layla wandered the grand hall, a sudden chill ran down her spine. A man approached, a familiar face. "Layla," he said softly. It was Daniel, a childhood friend she hadn't seen in years. "What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "I could ask you the same," he replied. Daniel looked around nervously. "I'm here because I think Victoria is not who she pretends to be. She's dangerous." Layla's heart pounded. "Do you know anything about Damien or Jessa?" she asked. Daniel hesitated. "There's more to that story. But it's not safe to talk here." A whispered warning before Layla could press him. Daniel's eyes darted toward Victoria, who was watching from across the room. He grabbed Layla's arm and pulled her into a hidden corridor. "Victoria has eyes everywhere," he warned. "If she suspects you're asking questions, you're in danger." Layla nodded, her mind racing. "What do we do?" "Meet me tomorrow," Daniel said. "I have information that will change everything." Back at the safe house, Layla and Caro regrouped with Mara and Jonah. "Daniel might be a key," Caro said thoughtfully, "but we don't know if we can trust him yet." Layla agreed, but couldn't shake the feeling that Daniel held answers she needed. The next day, meeting Daniel in a quiet cafe, Daniel revealed what he knew. Victoria Kane was never just a businesswoman, he said. She was involved in underground networks, human trafficking, money laundering, even political corruption. Layla's blood ran cold. Damien got involved with her to protect Jessa. He tried to get out but was trapped. Daniel pulled out a file. "These are people she's threatened or harmed, and there's more, proof that Jessa was forced to disappear." Layla's hands trembled. A new threat. As they left the cafe, Layla's phone rang. A blocked number. A voice hissed, "Stop digging, Layla, or you'll lose more than your sister." Before she could respond, the line went dead. The turning point. Determined, Layla pushed on. She broke into tears that night, feeling the weight of the truth crush her. Caro held her, whispering, "You're not alone." The next morning, they discovered Jessa's name in a hidden database connected to a charity that supposedly helped missing persons. But the charity was a front. "Victoria's," Mara said. Layla clenched her fists. They're still controlling her. Race against time. They plan to infiltrate the charity's next event, hoping to find Jessa or at least a clue. Final scene. The charity gala. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and well-dressed guests. Victoria Kane smiled as she mingled. Unaware of the eyes watching her every move, Layla spotted a woman in the crowd, a flash of familiarity in her eyes. It was Jessa. Cliffhanger. Layla moved toward her sister, but before she could reach her, a hand grabbed her arm. It was Victoria. Looking for something, Layla? Her smile was cold as ice. Behind the mask, betrayals unveiled, the glittering chandeliers cast a cold light over the grand ballroom, reflecting off the polished marble floors and the polished smiles of the guests. Victoria Kane's presence commanded attention. She was the queen of this world, a predator cloaked in elegance. Layla's heart hammered as she reached for her sister, but Victoria's cold grip tightened on her arm before she could move. Looking for something, Layla? Victoria's voice was silky but deadly, her smile a razor's edge. Caught in the crossfire, Layla struggled, but Victoria's hold was ironclad. "Let go of me," Layla hissed, meeting Victoria's icy gaze without flinching. Victoria chuckled softly. "You're braver than I expected, but you don't belong here." The crowd around them suddenly seemed to blur, their polite interest turning into suspicion. Mara and Jonah, watching from a distance, started moving toward the commotion. Caro, stationed near the entrance, tensed. Something in his gut screamed. Danger. A public confrontation. Victoria's eyes flicked to the crowd, then back to Layla. "I've been waiting a long time for this moment," she said. "To see how far you'd go to ruin me." Layla's voice was steady. "You can't keep hiding forever, Victoria. We know what you've done. We'll bring you down." Victoria's smile widened. "Bring me down? You? The girl who begged for leftovers? You have no idea what you're up against." Suddenly, security moved in. Jonah and Mara rushed to Layla's side, pulling her away as the guards tried to separate them. Chaos and escape. In the chaos, Layla caught a glimpse of Jessa, eyes wide but guarded, disappearing through a side door. "Jessa!" Layla called out, but the sister was gone like a ghost. Caro intercepted Victoria near the exit. "We're done playing games," Caro said firmly. "You're going to answer for everything." Victoria laughed. "You're out of your league, Caro." Behind closed doors later that night, Layla sat with Caro, Mara and Jonah in their safe house. The gala had ended in a messy retreat, but the message was clear. Victoria was dangerous and desperate. "We need more than just threats," Mara said. "We need proof, something concrete." Jonah nodded. "And someone inside Victoria's operation." Layla clenched her fists. "We need Jessa. Jessa's dilemma." Meanwhile, Jessa sat alone in a small, sparsely furnished room. She stared at a photo of Layla, her eyes filled with pain and guilt. "I never wanted this," Jessa whispered to herself. The door creaked open. A man stepped inside. Lucas, Victoria's right-hand man. "You're going back to the gala tomorrow," Lucas said coldly. "Victoria wants to send a message." Jessa's jaw tightened. "I'm done being a pawn." Back at the safe house, Layla paced, her mind racing. Caro placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're strong, Layla, but we need a plan." Mara spread out the files they had gathered. "There's a shipment leaving the docks tomorrow night. Illegal goods, possibly human trafficking." Jonah added, "Victoria's involved. If we intercept, we might get a lead on Jessa." The sting operation. Under cover of darkness, the team prepared to move. Layla's hands trembled as they approached the docks. The salty air was thick with tension. They watched as trucks loaded crates marked with a symbol they recognized from Victoria's. "Documents." Suddenly a voice whispered behind Layla. "Careful." Daniel stepped out of the shadows. Daniel's confession. "I've been following Victoria for years," Daniel said. "She's more ruthless than you can imagine." Layla narrowed her eyes. "Why should I trust you?" Daniel looked away, ashamed. I was part of it once, but I want out, and I want to help you. The raid. Just then, lights flashed and sirens wailed. Jonah's team moved in, catching the smugglers off guard. In the chaos, Layla spotted Jessa, guarded but alive. Jessa! Layla cried, rushing toward her. Their eyes met. So much pain and relief in one look, but before they could embrace, Lucas appeared, blocking their way. A deadly confrontation. Lucas lunged at Caro with a knife. Caro dodged, tackling Lucas to the ground. The fight was brutal. Layla grabbed Jessa's hand. We're getting out of here. The aftermath safely away, Jessa finally opened up. I was forced to disappear, she said, tears streaming. Victoria threatened my life and yours. Damien tried to protect us both. Layla held her sister tight. We'll stop her. A new ally, Daniel, handed over evidence. Files, photos, recordings. It's everything I could gather, he said. But Victoria's reach goes higher than you think. Layla looked at the pile of proof and felt a spark of hope. Secrets shatter. Trust broken, truth revealed. The news of Victoria Kane's disappearance spread like wildfire. The city buzzed with speculation, kidnapping, hiding, or a bold escape. But in the quiet, shadows were moving and trust was about to fracture. Safe house, early morning. Layla stared at the screen, her eyes heavy but sharp. Victoria was missing, and the investigation was on edge. Caro paced, rubbing his temples. We're running out of time. If Victoria's smart, she's planning her next move. Mara looked grim. Her network isn't just about money, it's about power, fear, and silence. Jonah tapped his laptop. The files Daniel gave us show who's involved, but there's one name missing, Damien. Layla's heart clenched. Where is he? A whisper. From the past, that afternoon, Layla received a cryptic call from an unknown number. Meet me at the old pier, a distorted voice whispered. If you want Damien, come alone. The line went dead. Decision time. Layla's gut screamed. Against it, but she knew she had to go. Caro insisted on coming with her. No, Layla said firmly. This is my fight. I have to do this. The pier. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the water. Layla's breath came quick as she scanned the empty pier. Suddenly, footsteps echoed. A figure stepped from the darkness. Damien. He looked worn, haunted. Damien's truth. I never wanted any of this, Damien said, voice barely above a whisper. Victoria controlled everything. She forced me to make choices I hate. Layla's eyes filled with questions. Why did you disappear? Why leave us? Damien's gaze fell. I was scared. For Jessa, for you. She threatened to destroy us. A painful confession. Layla's voice cracked. We suffered because of your... Silence. Damien nodded. I'm sorry, I lost myself trying to protect you. Suddenly, danger. Before they could speak more, headlights flashed. Black SUVs screeched to a halt. Men with guns surrounded them. Escape Caro and Mara appeared, guns drawn. Move! Caro shouted. A tense shootout erupted. Damien grabbed Layla's hand, pulling her into a waiting boat. Safe but shaken as they sped away, Layla looked at Damien. Tell me everything, she demanded. Damien's story. He told them about Victoria's true empire, built on fear, lies, and pain. She used us. All. She even planned to kill Jessa to silence her. Layla felt rage boil inside her. The betrayal that night, as the group regrouped, Daniel's phone buzzed. He stepped aside, answering quickly. Layla watched as Daniel's face shifted, from calm to cold. When he returned, his words hit like a hammer. Victoria isn't missing. She's been hiding at it with my help. Shock and anguish. Layla's breath caught. Why? She whispered. Daniel's eyes were hard. Because Victoria promised me power, and she's planning her comeback. Betrayed Caro clenched his fists. We trusted you, Daniel shrugged. You all were useful, but Victoria's the real queen. Chaos. The room erupted. Layla felt her world tilt. The person who promised help was the enemy. Final plan. With Daniel exposed, Layla and the team knew they had one last chance. Victoria had to be stopped before she regained control. The final reveal. From ashes to empowerment, the city had never felt colder. Victoria Kane's chilling message echoed in Layla's mind as she stood on the edge of everything she once knew. This was it. The last battle. Safe house. Dawn. Layla gathered Mara, Caro, Jonah, and Damien. We've lost allies. We've been betrayed, Layla said, her voice steady but fierce. But Victoria underestimated us. Jonah spread out the final intelligence they had. Victoria's location, a private island estate. High security, but we have a way in. Mara looked at Layla. This is more than revenge. This is for our future. The approach night fell like a blanket as their small boat neared the island. Layla's heart pounded. Every shadow held a threat. Every sound could be an enemy. But inside, she carried something stronger. Hope, infiltration. They slipped past guards using stealth and tech. Damien's insider knowledge was invaluable. Victoria's paranoia is her weakness, he whispered. The confrontation in the grand hall. Victoria waited, regal and deadly. You're persistent, she said, smirking. Layla stepped forward. This ends now. Truths unveiled, Victoria sneered. You think you understand? I created this empire to survive, to protect what's mine. Layla's voice was calm but resolute. At what cost? You destroyed families, lied, hurt those you called close. Victoria's eyes flickered with pain, then rage. The final twist, suddenly the room darkened. A figure emerged. Jessa. She held a recorder. Your empire is built on lies, Victoria. Here's the truth everyone needs. Jessa played Victoria's own confessions, proof of crimes, betrayals, manipulations. The guards hesitated. Break down. Victoria's mask cracked. No one will believe you, she hissed. But the guards, once loyal, looked away. Justice served. Police stormed the island, arresting Victoria and her key lieutenants. Layla watched, exhausted, but victorious. Aftermath. Days later, Layla sat with her sister, Jessa, and Damien. We lost so much, Jessa said softly. But we found each other, Layla replied. Damien nodded, and maybe a chance to heal. The lesson. Layla's final words echoed through her mind. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are. Epilogue. Months later, Layla stood on a new stage. Not as a victim, but as a survivor. She looked out at the crowd. Faces filled with hope. Her journey from leftovers to leader was complete. The end.